elected president, and you are representing one of the most influential, most successful countries in our region. What is in store for Singaporean-Philippine relations under this new administration?
Well, as you know, Singapore and the Philippines enjoy a very close relationship. We are both founding members of ASEAN. I think this is our 53rd year of diplomatic relations. We established diplomatic relations in 1969. We have always worked closely together as good friends, as good neighbors. We've just come through a long pandemic, and even during those times of crisis, we have continued to work together. During the pandemic, Singapore and the Philippines extended mutual support and assistance, including contributions of medical supplies, and we were helping each other's nationals return home safely. Now, I'm very confident that under the new administration, we will continue to grow and strengthen our relationship.
Okay, now, if I recall correctly, President Bongbong Marcos even made a reference to the standards of tourism infrastructure in Singapore. And I was mentioning prior to the CAM opening up, I mentioned to you that I look up to Singapore in terms of housing, in terms of education. You are the leader in the region for housing, education, even for medicine. Now, in what ways can Singapore assist the Philippine government? Because I understand your president has invited our president for a state visit. Are you cooking up something, Ambassador Ho? Are you planning a major powwow between Singapore and the Philippines to get us started? Because you guys have the experience.
Well, thank you for your very kind words about my country. I think I'll go back to President Marcos's inaugural address. I think he spoke about his intention to develop the Philippines economy and to build back better after the pandemic. And of course, all of us in the Philippines is looking forward to hearing him talk about these things at SONA later this afternoon. But when I called on President Marcos, I discussed a few areas of possible cooperation that we could look to. So we had a good conversations on our country's mutual areas of interest and how to future-proof our workforce and economies. So some of the key areas that we talked about would include things like healthcare, digital economy, digital infrastructure, sustainable development, and of course, food security, which is a key priority of President Marcos. We also think that there's a lot of scope to expand our existing areas of cooperation in trade and investment, on labor, and of course, defense relations. And
okay, you mentioned the magic word for this morning, and I haven't read the headlines because I had to prioritize you first because you have a limited time with us this morning. But one of the major news articles that came out is that China has deployed permanent units to their 3 man-made islands for purposes of establishing a flying squadron and maritime rescue and administration of their area within those areas. And clearly, this is going to be a head-butting situation between China and all the rest of claimants. I know Singapore is not a claimant, but have you considered being a referee of sorts?
You come up with tricky questions. Well, I think in terms of foreign relations, I think the Marcos administration has appointed very competent people, and they will continue, as all of us do in Southeast Asia and ASEAN, to manage our relationship with China, to manage the challenges and to continue building that relationship in a peaceful and prosperous way. That there are difficult situations that arise occasionally, for sure, especially when you're dealing with issues of sovereign claims or overlapping claims. And we have a mechanism that we have a dialogue in when we discuss the code of conduct in the South China Sea. All the ASEAN countries are involved with this in China, including the non-claimant states, because obviously the oceans, the South China Sea is a major transit point for trade. Singapore has, of course, a deep interest in the South China Sea as well, given that trade is 3 times the size of our economy. So we want to keep it open. We want to keep it peaceful. But at the same time, we want to make sure that any differences between the claimants are peacefully managed.
Okay, now what would be the priorities of Singapore in the next 10 or 20 years? Because I was listing down just offhand the achievements of your country. Like I said, I was very impressed with the history of housing in Singapore, education, health. You even at one time had a major problem with water, but you have adapted both technology and policy to make sure that water is a renewable resource and is well utilized. And of course, your economy is the envy of all in our neighborhood. Now, when I was thinking about it, it seems that the last remaining concern would be military, or a defense infrastructure. Is Singapore headed towards that the same way Israel went? Because I just realized you're very much like Israel. Very creative people, struggled with a lot of challenges, territory, etc. And now Israel is also one of the strongest military presence in the Middle East. What about Singapore?
Well, I mean, I think for my country, security obviously is always something that we put a priority on. As you know, we have a national service, basically a conscript-based military. We invest in our security because ultimately all countries, while we seek to be diplomatic, to have good diplomatic relationships with all countries, we also have to, the ultimate guarantee of our own security is to do it yourself. So we have placed a premium on those things. I don't know whether we are like Israel, but I will say that like the Israelis, Singapore invests a lot in its people, in innovation, in the digital economy, and this is something that we look forward to having that conversation with the Philippine government.
Okay. I know I only have a few more minutes left. What are the concerns of Singaporean investors and Singaporean business sector in relation to the Philippines? There's 2 sets. One would be the potential investors coming to the Philippines, and the other are the business establishments who employ Filipinos. I guess we should talk about who employ Filipinos first, because your nation does host a lot of foreign entities or communities for work. Are we looking at a changing demand in Singapore for the quality of workers or employees?
Well, let me first say that there's actually a very large and thriving and dynamic community of Filipinos in working and living in Singapore. I think there are about 200,000 of them. And they have made very important contributions to our society, to our economy. And of course, we are particularly grateful for the dedication and the commitment of the Filipino healthcare professionals especially those that fought in the front lines during the COVID-19 situation. And, this is also why my Prime Minister, during the COVID, publicly committed to protecting and caring for the health and welfare of all workers in Singapore, all migrant workers, including overseas Filipino workers. And the same way that we provide for Singaporeans. So we gave them medical care and access to all the vaccinations. And we are very happy that today, most of our population, I think like 93% are fully vaccinated, and we have about 80% who are already on their first boosters. In terms of the economy, I think it's an investment potential. I think Singapore investors have a lot of interest in the Philippines, particularly now that we have reopened our borders. We expect to see a resumption of travel, both in terms of leisure and business. And just anecdotally for myself, I see that all the flights are full, both ways.
For you.
And it's very hard to book a ticket. And, even in terms of the visitors I get a lot more Singapore companies coming in. Like on a weekly basis, I'm meeting with Singapore companies that are looking at investment opportunities in the Philippines. And I think that speaks to the potential that we see in the Philippines. The fact that this economy in a post-pandemic period has continued to grow after, of course, suffering a bit of a dip. But more importantly, I think for a lot of our investors, they were very encouraged by the recent economic reforms, those that were passed in the Congress, the legislative amendments to the Foreign Investment Act, the Public Service Act, the Retail Trade Liberalization Act. And these actually put the Philippines on a good position to continue to attract and invest, continue to attract investment from Singapore. And obviously, as the ambassador here, I'm encouraging our companies to take a closer look at the Philippines. I personally think that this is a bit of a hidden gem, and there are many opportunities for Singapore companies.
Was there any inquiry of particular interest, or should I say, was there any Singaporean investor that called on you that caught your attention, like, Singtel or something, or, asking, hey, Ambassador Ho, now that they're changing their rules, we might consider coming to the Philippines, because, everyone is really praying for improvement in the economy.
I saw some projects that were being planned, I think mainly in terms of building data centers, because a lot of the data centers, especially those that are being built in Singapore, I think it's all tapped out. So they are looking for other places to site their data centers. I think Indonesia has done quite a lot on that front. And now a lot of these investors are looking to build data centers in the Philippines. So that's one area. The other thing that kind of caught my attention was a couple of months back, I attended a MOU signing between a major logistics company in Singapore and the provincial government of Batangas. I think they were looking to build a port, a logistics super port, and tie it part into the rest of the region, where they were also looking to build these ports. So these are just some of the top of the mind stuff that came up to me. But there are a lot of smaller players coming in, looking to provide digital services, consultancy services. Our companies are always interested in anything related to renewables, sustainability, urban solutions, and so forth. So this is why there's a steady traffic of companies coming out to the Philippines.
Well, that's good news. That's great to hear, Mr. Ambassador, and I sincerely hope we can have a second interview and a longer one, because I would like our Filipinos to hear more about the Singapore story, about how you guys built up your housing, where everyone has a home, not just a bunker or a block in some apartment. How you put dignity into labor, etc. And it's something to aspire for. And we congratulate you. We congratulate your country and your founders for doing such a magnificent job, a job that we in the Philippines hope will happen for us too in the future. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Cito, and thank you again for your so many kind words about my country, and I wish you a good morning.
Okay, good morning to you, sir. And that is Ambassador Gerard of Singapore. And we will go for a quick break. And when we return, we go back to Philippine Matters, where we are going to talk about the state of the Philippines and in relation to the state of the nation. Okay, we'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, welcome to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us this morning. And we continue with our program. And I have to apologize for the disruption of flow, because the Singaporean ambassador really just kind of squeezed us into his tight schedule. We had requested for a 40-minute to 45-minute interview weeks ago. That became a 30-minute interview, which last night I was told was cut down to 15 minutes. And then he needed to leave early, be on board early. So I had to drop the headlines. But if you would, and with the indulgence of our guests, I will just quickly go through the front page of the Philippine Star. Skim na lang natin, Gab, and so that people in the provinces and those who don't have access will know what's on the front page of the Philippine Star today, July 26, 2022. It's no, 25, sorry, July 25, 2022. It's a Monday, and the headline is sad, 3 dead, 1 wounded in Ateneo shooting. Okay, that shooting involved the former mayor of Lamitan City in Basilan Province, her bodyguard or assistant, no, personal assistant, I think, and a security guard of the Ateneo. And the shooter, a doctor, a physician, turned out to be a long-time kainisan, okay? Political critic or opponent of the former mayor. And he was apprehended. 3 people died, and the daughter of the former mayor is now in stable condition in the hospital. Okay. At the top of the front page, WHO triggers highest global alert on monkeypox. The World Health Organization has decided to call the monkeypox as of grave concern because of the increasing cases. Okay. And photo there is a photo of President Bongbong Marcos in a tarpaulin talking about his State of the Nation today. And the president will convene the LEDAC after SONA. China, this is one big story of concern for us. China sets up permanent maritime offices in South China Sea, in the man-made islands they control, including the Spratlys. They are putting up flying squadrons and patrolling and enforcing what they believe is their area for administration. 2.5 million registrants not yet approved as voters for the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections. And motorist woes, no traffic timers and stiff fines. Okay, yan po. And last but not the least, photo of SM Supermalls and COMELEC signing a memorandum of agreement to provide voters with more registration venues, etc., etc. Let's now go to our second topic for conversation, discussion today by introducing our next set of guests.
Assistant Professor Dennis Coronacion is the current chair of University of Santo Tomas Political Science Program. He also serves as the president of Philippine Political Science Association. Prior to this, he was a board member at Philippine Social Science Council. Ronald Llamas was the political affairs advisor to former President Noynoy Aquino. He is now the chairman of Galahad Consulting Agency. Llamas is also the founding president of Akbayan Party List.
Okay, Prof. Dennis, Sir Ronald, Sir na lang, ayaw mong gumamit ng title eh. Sir, total, Galahad naman eh, Sir Galahad. Anyway, good morning gentlemen, welcome to the program. We've invited you in lieu of the fact that President Bongbong Marcos is going to give the State of the Nation address today in compliance, if I remember correctly, with the constitutional requirement. Is that correct, Professor Dennis?
Well, that's correct, Sir Cito, no? Because our constitution says that the president may hold a State of the Nation address to give an update to the nation regarding its present conditions.
Okay.
And it also provides the president an opportunity to seek the help of Congress in terms of pursuing his legislative agenda and other government programs.
Okay, now, Sir Ronald Llamas, you're a veteran of politics in the Philippines, in and out of the executive department and on the streets, etc. What exactly is the state of the nation right now? Kasi everyone keeps talking about SONA, SONA. For many, it's a speech. For many, it's a promise or a set of promises. But no one really ever tells us what is the state of our country today as the new president comes in.
Yeah, very delicate yan, Cito, no? Because President Marcos won because of the part of the narrative is continuity. And the daughter of President Duterte eventually became his vice president. So very delicate yung sasabihin niya about the real state of the nation because he cannot criticize na yung previous government, which was very crucial for his victory. Pero kung titignan natin ay he will inherit a lot of problems from the previous government, like huge loans, record high loans. No? Imagine almost 7 trillion in 6 years, practically no savings. When Duterte became president, merong naiwan na 900 billion pesos in savings. Today, Duterte, mukhang naubos na niya yung budget for the year. So, ikatlo, merong high inflation, may huge budget deficit. Hindi malinaw kung i-contrapose ba niya yung sarili niya sa previous government. Like most presidents, in their first SONA, ginagawa nila yan. Si Cory, contraposing himself to Marcos, Erap, contraposing himself to Ramos during the Asian financial crisis, Arroyo, contraposing himself to Erap, no? Yung mga problems na in-inherit niya, Pinoy, contraposing himself to Arroyo, yung mga corruption na nominala niya from Arroyo, and Duterte contraposing himself to Pinoy. This time, I doubt if President Marcos will do that because it will be very critical.
Yeah, that everyone understands. But maybe we can, we'll just fix a technical problem, gentlemen. When we come back, I'd like to ask Professor Dennis Coronacion if he agrees with your assessment. And also, why does it always have to be about someone? Kumbaga parang, bakit ba laging persona lang sa Pilipinas? I mean, COVID made no exemptions. Sana all tayo sa COVID. Okay, we'll go for a quick break, and when we return, I'll ask Professor Dennis to address that. Okay, welcome back to the program agenda. Before we went for the break, Ronald Llamas, political affairs advisor to former President Noynoy Aquino, said that the Duterte administration borrowed something like 7 trillion pesos. Baka mo, Professor Sir Ronald, okay, 7 trillion. There's no savings left. What about you, Professor Dennis? What's your view? What is the state of the country right now? And why does it always requires a reference to the previous administration?
Well, because to answer the second question, first, Sir Cito, no? Whenever people take a look at our politics, they always look at the broader picture, and current presidents are always being compared to to their predecessors.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to look at it that way, we can see a pattern of either continuity or a break from the previous practice. So
Okay.
in most cases, it's always a break, like the transition from Arroyo to Pinoy, Pinoy going to the leadership of Duterte. So to a large extent, it has always been a break from the past practices and policies of the previous president.
Okay,
But
yeah.
in this case, since I think the perception among Filipinos is that the Marcos presidency, the Marcos Jr. presidency, is a continuity of the Duterte administration's policies. To a certain extent, I agree that this is a break from the usual pattern of discontinuing the policies of the past president. So there is no contraposition to speak of to a certain extent. But of course, even during the campaign, I think we can see that there is a tendency for President Marcos to break from some, to put a break from some of the policies of his predecessor. Well, he stated that he would like to adopt, once in power, he would like to adopt or to continue the build program, but he also asserted that he would like to insert certain modifications, like incorporating a digital infrastructure component. So it's not totally a continuity from Duterte to Bongbong Marcos presidency. Now, about the first question regarding the what do you call this?
State of the nation or the condition of the country
Right.
right now.
Well, the condition of the country is the same as the condition of the country before Bongbong Marcos has become president. He has inherited all the problems that former President Duterte had confronted, and some of these problems he had probably failed to address, and these are the things that will continue to hound the Bongbong Marcos presidency. I mean, it's a different kind of leadership, a brand new leadership, confronting the same old problems. Now, your question before the break was, why is it all about someone, meaning to say the president? Well, I suppose because our structure has something to do with it, our political structure. The presidential setup puts most of the burdens of leadership and governance on the president. Although there's a principle of checks and balances, but it has been customary, it has been the practice to put almost all of the responsibility in terms of governance to the president. So
Okay.
that's how I see it.
Okay. Anyway, guys, so I'm just making it clear. This is a free for all. Hindi naman suntukan, pero you guys can just come. Para lang tayo nagkakape.
Yeah.
So, Ronald, what in your view has to change. Kasi we seem to confront the same old problems. According to Professor Dennis, it's always about no money in the safe or in the piggy bank, nothing left, and then there's still a lot of debts, utang. I think right now it's in the trillions. And we actually have a global crisis. I don't know about Dennis. I think Dennis is quite young. But Ronald, between you and me, I think we have both seen the return of the comeback, so to speak. Fuel crisis, global conflict, etc. And parang replay. Tas ngayon, pinoproblema natin, bigas na naman.
Tama ka, Cito. No? Kaya nga, although nagsimula ako sa State of the Nation, na basically kino-contrapose sa previous government or president, sabi nga ni Professor Coronacion, dahil sa ating political system yan very strong president. So the State of the Nation is basically influenced by a strong president. Kaya nagkakaroon ng comparison, yung susunod na presidente. Pero hindi lang yun ang pinag-uusapan sa SONA. Pinag-uusapan din sa SONA, what is your political project, no? Para umahon sa State of the Nation. Halimbawa, si Cory, institutionalization of people power. Kaya nag-create siya ng 1987 Constitution. Yun ang cornerstone ng kanyang gobyerno. Si Ramos, Philippines 2000, to create, to transform the Philippines into a tiger economy like Singapore, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia. So yun yung kanyang political project. Si ERAP, may semblance. Yung ERAP para sa mahirap niya. Walang kamag-anak, walang kaibigan.
Sorry, Ronald. Let me just cut in there. Why do we even have to have political projects?
Because kailangan mong sabihin, how can you emerge from the state of the nation, especially the crisis?
Yeah, but in reality, sorry, I mean, just go with me here, Dennis, Ronald. No, following what you're saying, Ronald, you need to have something to tell the people as you come from the state of the nation currently. But all these presidents had their political projects or their motto or their, rah-rah-rah, whatever. But none of it happened.
Yes. Actually, it's a cup half full, half empty. Meron naman nangyari based sa kanilang political project. Pero meron ding hindi nangyari. Halimbawa, yung Philippines 2000 ni FDR was going more or less smoothly. Improving growth rates, bridging the deficit, etc. Solving the power crisis. Pero dumating yung Asian financial crisis, if you remember, at the end of his term. So nagkaroon siya ng problema. No?
But there was also something there that happened. And Dennis, please join in. So, yan ang hirap pag bata no? Parang pinagsasabi nito mga tito ko. But no, because in fairness to President Ramos, he had Philippines 2000, he addressed economic concerns, but I have to call it, they failed when it came to poverty alleviation. Kanya nga nanalo si ERAP sa sobrang daming mahirap na nagdusa who were forgotten. Yung sinasabi ni Lenin na nasa laylayan that they voted ERAP into office and nearly had a third revolution on EDSA because of poverty.
Yes, kaya nga one of the reasons na nanalo si Duterte is because of the weaknesses of the EDSA institutions, what we call them, the post-Marcos institutions.
So going back to my point, and kasi the reason I'm interjecting here, which I don't normally do, is kasi parang yun nga yung issue ko, Dennis, parang bakit na lang it's always about somebody's mistake? Or are we coming up with the same answers, that always end up with the wrong outcome?
Sinasabi ko nga, Cito, that's just one part of it. Yung comparing yourself. Usually, ang dominant dyan is where do you want to bring the country? Kaya nga sabi ko, that's what I meant by political project. Saan mo dadalhin? Dahil doon ka susukatin Ang problema kay Bongbong, hindi masyadong malinaw saan siya susukatin. Dahil hindi siya nag-participate sa debate, hindi masyadong malinaw yung kanyang gagawin, no? At sa inaugural speech niya, hindi rin ganun kalinaw kung ano yung magiging political project niya. Sabi lang niya, hintayin niyo yung aking State of the Nation. No, yun ang sabi niya nung inaugural speech niya. Ang malinaw lang sa inaugural speech, yung agriculture at saka food security. No? Na tingin ko ay babanggitin niya sa State of the Nation.
Because
Pero
it's a no choice. It's a no choice situation.
Yes. Ikalawa ay yung PPP. Dahil walang papasok na foreign investments at least for the next 2 to 3 years because of global problems, because of wait and see attitude ng ibang investors. Tapos yung problema like in China, malaki yun yung nawala, no? Dahil sa labanan sa interest rates, no? Sabi nga ni Sally Dominguez, gusto ng China 3%, ang gusto nila is 0.1 or 0.5, no? So ganung malaking problema. Kaya magpo-focus si Bongbong sa domestic investments, which is basically PPP. Now, sa inyo, yan yung mga possible contours ng kanyang SONA. Possibly charter change. Dahil yung constitution na ini-implement niya is basically a people power constitution, no?
Okay.
Kaya nga tinanggal yung terms One term lang ang presidente to prevent another Marcos. So ang dilema ngayon ni Bongbong ay kailangan ba niyang baguhin yung konstitusyon kung saan siya nanalo, pero isang konstitusyon na anti-Marcos.
Let me go to Professor Dennis Coronacion. Then Prof. Dennis, bata ka no? And I'm hoping that because you are much younger than us, you can provide, your generation can provide us with an alternative. Kasi nakakasawa na nothing happens every July, last week of July, blah blah, State of the Nation. Promises, sabi nga ni Dion Warwick, wala naman nangyari, puro naman sira. Professor Dennis.
Actually, tama ho kayo dyan, yung mga kahenerasyon ko at yung mga siguro mas nakababata pang henerasyon ko. Even though siguro limitado pa lang nakikita namin, o mas bata sa amin, limitado pa lang nakikita nila na nangyayari na maganda sa politika ng bansa natin. Pero nananatili ho kami na umaasa. O kaya nga itong SONA ng Pangulo na to, I think this is a critical juncture, not just for his presidency but also for Philippine politics as well. Para sa kanyang presidency, tama si Sir Ronald, wala pa tayong mapagbabasehan upang siguro i-criticize yung kasalukuyang Pangulo. I mean, there's no track record to speak of, no performance to assess, to evaluate. Wala ring trust ratings, wala ring mga performance ratings. So parang double-edged sword for the current president kasi this can, he can use this para since clean slate pa wala pa siyang bad record, this can serve as a political capital. This can serve as a thing, reason for him to inspire not just the Filipino, but especially the.
But where do you think is the answer, Professor Dennis? Is it really with the president? Is it with the SONA? Or is it really in civil society themselves? Kasi kanina nga napag-usapan, nabanggit ni Ambassador Gerard yung private investments. Ronald Llamas mentioned that also about PPP. Shouldn't we just look at ourselves to be the solution?
That's right. Kasi even though we have our constitution puts so much power on the president as well as responsibility, it has been proven historically na hindi kaya mag-isa ng Pangulo na ayusin lahat ng problema ng bansa natin. So it's not just the NGOs, the civil society, but it should also include the business sector as well as the ordinary citizens.
Okay, now we're talking because as you correctly pointed out, the president or any president for that matter was not able to do it on their own. Now, Ronald, you've been in the corridors of power. What was the real life experience? What tied the hands of the president the presidents during your time?
Well, the presidency itself is about political power. At ang yung nature ng ating political system, napaka-strong ng presidente. Pero at the same time, marami mga pressures sa kanya. Halimbawa, yung global economic system. Maganda yung sinabi mo na mahalaga na maging self-reliant tayo magsolusyon sa ating problema. Pero ang isa ring problema, we are so linked with the global system. Halimbawa, supply chain. Kung ano yung magiging problema sa supply chain, global. Lalo na, ang ating main dollar earning comes from overseas Philippines, no? Yung kanilang sahod. So kung yung global economy down o travel, tatamaan yung oil na biggest dollar natin. Hindi tayo masyadong makatak. Hindi, yung limits for self-reliance ay limited because of our link with the global system. Hindi tayo pwedeng mag-unlink. No? So, tama yung sabi mo, kailangan, halimbawa, food security, kailangan ayusin natin yan dahil at the minimum, kahit anong mangyari sa mundo, at least kaya natin pakainin yung ating mamamayan. No? Kaya tama naman yung ginawa ni Presidente Marcos na mag-focus sa food security at saka sa agriculture. Ang tanong, paano? Yun yung titignan natin sa SONA. Yung ba yung sinasabi niyang 20 peso a kilo of rice? Mukhang may improbable yan dahil it will create subsidies na wala siya. Wala siyang pang-subsidize because yung wala siyang savings at malaki yung huge deficit between earnings at saka expenses. No? Yun yung magiging, yun yung interesting. No? Itong sinasabi niya halimbawa na food security agriculture, how will he implement it? Sa isang sitwasyon na nagde-depreciate yung peso, ang taas ng inflation, ang laki ng debt at saka ang laki ng deficit. Yun yung mga hinahanap ng mga tao. Dahil may dalawa siyang burden Yung isa niyang burden, ang low ng bar nung mga hindi bumoto sa kanya. Ang low na expectations. Yung 16 million na hindi bumoto sa kanya. Yung 31 million na bumoto sa kanya, ang taas naman ng expectation. Especially yung DNE na karamihan ng bumoto sa kanya. Ano ba? Meron ba kaming pagkain sa lamesa? Meron ba kaming mas mataas na sahod? Meron ba kaming ayuda? Etc. So, yun yung dalawang burden niya. How he will navigate that. The low expectation from those who didn't vote for him and the high expectations who voted for him. Paano niya gagawing political project? That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Professor Dennis, what about you? What are the expectations of the younger generation? Because many of who voted for BBM are allegedly below 30.
Well, yes. But there are also those who belong in that age bracket who voted for his opponent.
Yeah, but what are the people in that age bracket aspiring, hoping for? Because whether you voted for A or B or XYZ, at the end of the day, walang ang relevant lang sa you as a voter is yung outcome.
Actually, siguro kahit po sabihin natin na bata, relatively young, yung majority of the supporters of BBM, they have the same expectations as those in the other age brackets. So naghahanap rin po sila ng, sabihin na natin na maaring ilan sa kanila naghahanap ng trabaho. O kaya na pagbabago sa kanilang buhay, economically speaking, financially speaking. And yung mga iba na nawawalan na ng pag-asa, they migrate to other countries. Pero for those who remain here, they continue to hope that there's going to be change in their lives under this presidency. So mga basic na ano po muna mga expectations.
Halos pare-pareho pa rin. Sabi nga ni Sir Ronald, minimums. Okay, but Ronald, what are the low-hanging fruits? Dennis, ano yung sa tingin ninyo, ito lang, happy na ako
Halimbawa sa gasoline, no? Although nagsabi na si Secretary Jokno na hindi niya gagawin, para ma-offset yung increase sa prices of gasoline ng impact ay inflationary, baka pwede niyang isuspend muna yung excise tax for 6 months. No? Halimbawa yung na low-hanging fruit na hindi naman kinakailangan ng legislation.
Yeah, but BBM already said no. He can't do that. He would just rather give give subsidies to fishermen and farmers and
Yes,
tricycle drivers than to
yes, it's
people
an
who drive
example.
cars.
Ang kung ko lang, it's an example of a low-hanging fruit na
Oh.
pwede niyang gawin immediately at saka may impact immediately sa inflation. Dahil inflation can make or unmake governments. Hindi mo pwedeng i-underestimate yan. No? Yung inflation. No? Nagpapabagsak o nagtatayo yan ng mga gobyerno in the past. No? Kaya yun ang isang example lang ng low-hanging fruit. Tingin ko yung kanyang 20 peso a kilo of rice, doable sa 25. Paano ang farm gate price naman ng rice is 16 pesos So kausapin niya yung mga major middlemen. Sabihin niya na, teka, baka pwedeng 10 piso lang muna ang kita nyo per kilo of rice. Paano? Laki naman ang kita sa patong sa rice, hindi naman yung farmers It's the middlemen.
Pwede ba yan parang 6 months laang? Kumbaga, bigyan na natin for 6 months.
Space. Just give me a breathing space. No? Especially on inflation. No? Yung loans, may hirapan siya Walang magpapautang ngayon ng low interest rates. No? Dahil pataas ang interest rates At pataas ang value ng dollar. Yun ang pambayad mo sa utang So may hirapan siya dyan. It's not a low-hanging fruit.
Professor Dennis, are you in agreement with the right-sizing approach para raw makatipid to make government efficient? Kasi meron naman supporter si BBM, pumapalag na Sinasabi na you're giving too much power to the executive secretary by taking out all the other departments, etc. Sabi ko, eto na, sila na.
Well, considering na ano po tayo, nasa pandemic pa and the government has been having a hard time trying to look for sources of funding, kung lalaki ba yung tax base or what. But all these things, makakatulong sa siguro po ang magiging tema ay pagtitipid. At kasama doon sa pagtitipid, dapat bang i-abolish yung mga certain government offices, emerge na lang sa mga other existing government offices. I think to a certain extent, I agree that we should, downsize. We should trim down the number of offices, especially in the executive department, because some of them have redundant functions. Ginawa na ho ito nung nakaraang presidency. I think minerge na ilan sa mga offices, and I just don't know if they were able to save budget for doing that.
Okay.
Ang problema,
yes, Ronald.
It's not a low-hanging fruit, yung right sizing. No? It will take time. No? Even the father tried that taming the bureaucracy. Hindi nagawa ni Ferdinand Marcos. No? It's not that easy dahil merong civil service protection ang government employees. Hindi mo sila basta-basta pwedeng tanggalin. Ikalawa, the elephant in the room, the military and the police. No? Tinaasan ni Duterte yung sahod niyan tsaka benefits. Ang laki ngayon ng budget para sa police tsaka military, almost 1 trillion, no? Which is basically a fourth. No? So yan ba, ibabawasan mo? No? That will be politically improbable. So yun yung mga tinatanong mo kanina, ano yung limits to power?
Pero pwede ko bang bawasan? Pwede bang bawasan? Okay, kernels and above, let's say.
Well, pwede, pero hindi nga yan low-hanging fruit na pwede mong gawin immediately. It will take time, no? At baka mo ma-antagonize the entire institution na ayaw mong gawin, no? Na ayaw mong gawin, no? So, yan yung mga problema. Ano ba ang low-hanging? Ano ba ang strategic? Actually, contradictory yung strategic dahil practically 4 years lang yung president Dahil yung first year niya, learning curve. Yung last year niya, lame duck. So, very limited yung panahon ng presidente to solve our problems. No, yun yung isang limit sa political power.
Okay. Professor Dennis, I'll give you the last word on this or at least give you the chance to comment on this. Kasi parang pag nangako ka, lagot ka. Pag hindi ka nangako, mahina ka. Okay? What do you think would be the best strategy on the first SONA? Kasi yan yung critical Parang wala ka pang ginagawa, may judgment na kagad dun lang sa sinabi mo. Even without doing anything, there will already be judgment just on what you choose to talk about. Kasi may sasabing, why are we excluded, etc. Professor Dennis.
Well, I think, syempre po, no, being the president, he's expected to inspire the nation, to lead them and help them solve all the problems that the country is expecting. So, hindi siguro wise para sa isang bagong presidente na maging conservative or modest sa pagsasabi ng mga goals niya para sa bansa natin. I think that the right thing to do is to be bold. Kung meron man siyang grand vision for the country, where everyone can pin their hope, he should do it. O kung halimbawa kinakailangan pa niya political project or slogan just to inspire everyone, maging ano siya parang battle cry, I think he should do so. I don't know kung ano lang ang kanyang magiging political project for his government.
Di ba? Pwede ba yung para sa all?
Unity. Sana all.
Sana all. Ronald Llamas, I'll give you the final say.
Hindi pwede. Dapat anong laman ng unity? We are uniting for what? Anong ibig sabihin ng bagong umaga? Anong aalmusalin sa bagong umaga? Yan ba ay pork chop? Yan ba ay daing? Yan ba ay... So, yan yung kulang dun sa narrative ni Bongbong na naging basis din ng kanyang pagkapanalo. No? Hindi, medyo vague yung kanyang promisa. Unity and bagong umaga. So ngayon, he will be tested. Anong laman yan? Anong laman ng almusal sa bagong umaga? Mag-unite tayo towards what? Yun yung sasabihin niya o hindi niya sasabihin in this SONA. At doon siya susukatin.
Sana lang wag niyang sasabihin na mag-fasting na muna tayo, mga kapatid, dahil tayo ay matataba na. Okay? I'm just trying to make light of a very serious and dire situation kasi masyadong nakakatakot itong... Well, it doesn't scare me. Filipinos should not be afraid because we have survived far worse. And we can achieve so much more in spite of having so little because we have done it time and again. And it's not about the president, it's always about the Filipinos. Dapat ako pala sumulat ng speech, ano? Okay, thank you very much, Professor Dennis and Sir Ronald. Thank you for this conversation. And I do hope that whatever is said today, it will bear fruit for the good of all.
Maraming salamat din, Cito.
Okay, that's Professor Dennis Coronacion of the University of Santo Tomas Political Science Department and Ronald Llamas, Political Affairs Advisor to former President Noynoy Aquino. And I leave you with this week's blessing. It comes from the Bible, from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 11, verses 19 to 20. A blessing to all Filipinos, and I pray that you would pray this. And I will give them one heart and a new spirit. I will put within them. I will remove the heart of stone from their flesh and give them a heart of flesh, that they may walk in my statutes and keep my rules and obey them. And they shall be my people, and I will be their God. Nothing can be more inspirational than the Word of God itself. And I do hope that all of you will pray for our national leaders, regardless of your political color. Please keep it here on One News PH. God bless all of you.